In discussions with theists, I am frequently challenged that I lack a perfect moral standard by which to live my life. The theist will, for example, point to the Ten Commandments as the source of their moral bedrock. I, of course, confess that I'm basically making it up as I go along, relying on my innate sense of right and wrong, liberally guided by empathy. This generally leads to an aha moment for the theist. If you are a theist, you are probably experiencing it now, because I've been trapped into admitting that I have no moral foundation, no moral bedrock. So where does theistic morality come from? This is a fraught question, for the simple reason that, although religious people agree in principle on the need for a perfect moral standard, they have as yet failed to agree on what that might be. There is some consensus around some of the Ten Commandments, but the major problem here are the penalties for breaching the commandments as described in Exodus and later Leviticus. For example, in Exodus 20, which lays out the commandments, we have this. Verse 3, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Okay, fair enough. It's odd and rather self-absorbed sort of injunction for a supreme being, but okay. Verse 5 of the same chapter clarifies this in some detail. "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I the Lord thy God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." Now, that's a lot less attractive. Or how about this? Chapter 21, verse 17. "And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death." A rather less agreeable amplification of the fairly benign "honor your father and mother." Most moderates would have major problems accepting or endorsing these kinds of extreme, Taliban-type moral absolutes. Yet Exodus is full of such detail and amplification, beginning directly after chapter 20, where we find the Ten Commandments. So any agreement on the Ten Commandments is at best superficial, and begins to break down almost immediately once one gets into the detail. The Golden Rule in the New Testament, although unoriginal, is a vast improvement on the punishment-oriented injunctions of the Ten Commandments. But is it a perfect standard that has been handed down to us by a God? And do we need the Bible to remind us of it? Given that the Golden Rule appeared centuries before Christianity, and tens of thousands of kilometers from the Middle East, on the lips of a Chinese bureaucrat no less, I think it's fair to say that it is not God-given, and even if it was, it wasn't the Abrahamic God that did the giving. So our best moral guideline didn't appear first in the Abrahamic religions, and if we take it as the guideline, we don't need a single additional line from the Torah, the Bible, or Quran to remind us of it. Still though, the vexing questions, where did morality come from? Why are we moral? Why do we have a conscience? Are not yet satisfactorily addressed. So hang on to your hat, because this is where it gets a little technical. Morality is an emergent property that is built on a biological substrate of empathy and group cooperation, refined in the interactions between child and parents, and further expanded in the social dynamics of the peer group and the rest of the culture. We have morality because being able to imagine yourself in someone else's position is a fast track to learning, because we discover quickly that we're dependent on others for food and warmth, and because as social animals we desire to be accepted by the group, and following shared rules is a good strategy for doing that. There's also an element of selection involved. Sociopaths have a harder time getting laid, and do a piss-poor job of raising children. For the record, I plagiarized this entire slide from P.Z. Myers, a very eloquent evolutionary biologist. So morality is simply a survival strategy that works. The capacity for cooperation and empathy within a tight-knit tribal group is clearly beneficial to survival. When a young girl's parents are killed by a saber-tooth attack, the surviving members of the group are moved to compassion by the heartfelt sobs of the child, and ensure that she is cared for despite her parents' death. This empathy improves the survival chances of the young, and secures the future of the next generation. If that's not enough for you, recent studies are showing that animals exhibit empathy, compassion, and altruism in crude but recognizable forms. If you have pets, you may have even seen this yourself. Altruism, empathy, compassion, even self-sacrifice, all of these moral attributes can be observed in the animal kingdom. Yet even with broad consensus on the Golden Rule, We still have crime, violence, and even war because the rule is so poorly and intermittently applied. So when a theist says, "Aha, but you have no objective moral standard, how can you prevent a Hitler or a Stalin?" the implication of this question is that the theist's God-based morality can somehow meet this need. Yet, as I have shown, theists differ as radically among themselves on morality as the rest of us, and frequently violently, which is especially ironic in the context of the Golden Rule. What will keep a given society from endorsing atrocity is a difficult problem, but not new to human history. It is a problem older than the human species itself, and has not been, nor will it be, resolved by resorting to fairy tales about a supernatural lawgiver. The variety and scope of human morality would suggest that no God-given list of explicit rules exists. The Golden Rule, the best standard we have, applies flexibly to the prevailing norms in any given society. Thus, even when applying the Golden Rule, we are simply making it up as we go along, which is what human society, through discussion, compromise, and mutual respect, has always done. We have had a global civilization for some time now, and we are fast merging into a global society. We need the Golden Rule applied fairly more desperately than ever before. We need to kill the outgroup. I don't mean some miserable demonized minority, but the concept. The concept of the outgroup has got to die. This is the logical trend of a planetary human society.